Number two, this movie, it was my number one for most of the year that since I saw it, and got beat out barely by this other movie. It was hard to decide which one I should put number one because this movie is definitely a movie I can see myself watching maybe more than the number one, but yet didn't have the biggest. Number one movie had the bigger impact on me, so I went with that. But number two, I went with How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, the live action remake of uh, one of my favorite, I would say my favorite DreamWorks movie. How to Train Your Dragon was such a great movie. And now we get a live action remake. And there's a lot of people who I know they're not going to put this on their top 10 just because it's a live action remake. And people don't like that they're making live action remakes off of these animated movie classics. And I can kind of see that. I don't mind it. If they do a good job, I don't mind it. It's just that they do a bad job most of the time. That's the big problem I have. Most of the movies, mostly from Disney, this is the first one from, I think, from DreamWorks. All the other ones have been Disney movies, and they've been horrible for the most part. In fact, you'll see on my top 10 worst list, uh, there's a certain live action movie that was really bad and is like the worst case scenario of a live action remake. This is the best live action remake from an anime movie that I've seen. And this is exactly how you do it. It's like if you want to know the blueprint of how to make a good live action movie from an anime movie, this is it. And I think a lot of that is it doesn't go too far from the original. In fact, I think probably one of the criticisms is that a lot of scenes are the same. So it's almost feels like a shot for shot remake. And there are a lot of shots that are the same, but that's because they're really good shots. So I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you take some of the best shots from the original and redo it, do the same shots, and all that? It makes sense to me. It's all about making a good movie, whether you stole from the other one or not. It's like, was it entertaining? Is the story good? Yes, the story is amazing. I love the story of this How to Train Your Dragon, and so that's why it works so well because it worked in the original, it works in the remake for me. There's some slight differences here and there, but again, the thing you need to do when you're making a remake is you need to not change up. Uh, you don't need to make it liberal wokeness. That's what kills a lot of these live action remakes. Is you take the original and you go, oh yeah, let's make it all about let's change races, let's change genders of the characters, let's change sexualities, let's make them gay or something like that. Let's change these things that aren't in the originals, and let's make it all about the girl saving the guy instead of the guy saving the girl. That's all the liberal wokeness that Disney usually puts in their movies, and it ruins these movies. And people that love the originals do not want to watch these liberal woke takes at these movies. They want to see what the original gave you, and that's what's ruining these. Now, this is why How to Train Your Dragon is so good. Is they didn't change anything like that. They didn't make any liberal woke changes to the characters or to the plot. So that's why it's so good. It pretty much has the same every plot and everything from the first movie, and so if it works for the first movie, it works for this movie. Um, I would say I don't think it's as funny as the original. I think the voice acting is better in the original than the live action actors here, especially the main character Hiccup. I don't think is as good as the original, but little problems there. But Astrid's still pretty good, and some of the other characters, and of course, Draw Butler is so good here. I do love that Draw Butler came back to play the dad, the leader of this like Viking, Scottish Vikings, on this island. So I did love that Draw Butler came back and he did the voice of the original character. He comes back and plays him. I thought he gave a great performance here. Some really good scenes between the father and son. There's some good father and son dynamics in this movie that works really well. And then again, I'm not getting too much in the plot because the plot of the first movie I've talked about before. I love the whole dragons they think are their enemies, but then he kind of realizes that they can actually get along with him and tries to get everybody else to buy into this. We don't need to fight the dragons, but their whole history is about fighting dragons, and they feel like they would be dishonoring their ancestors if they were friends with dragons, and so they feel like they have to fight dragons and kill dragons. And so I do love that. It's misunderstanding each other without talking to each other. And then it's like you realize, oh, even though this is just these are dragons and human beings, you find like, oh, we don't need to kill each other. We can work together. I do love that part of the story. The animation is so good. I say animation, the special effects, the CGI dragons are really good. They look so much like the original, and the action sequences are really well done. Man, that last action sequence with the huge dragon, the villain dragon, who's like way, just a giant dragon, way bigger than everybody. That fight scene is so good and fun to watch, and so well done. Also, the flying scenes are so good, just like the original. When he's on, that's my favorite scenes. When he's on back of Toothless, Hiccup is on Toothless, and they're flying, and that same John Powell score, one of the greatest scores ever in a movie. Yeah, that's gives you goosebumps almost when you watch them flying with that musical score. It is so good. Anyway, so yeah, this is still again number 2 on my list. I loved it. I love the original. I love the remake. It was such a good remake of the original, and I commend them for doing that, for not making it a liberal woke version of the story and committing to the original plot and story and characters. Anyways, sorry, talk a lot about this movie, but I really liked it, and It sucks that a lot of people don't give this credit because they don't want to give credit to live action remakes. If you do it well, it's still a good movie, and I think this is still a really good movie. So, almost made my number 1, but it's here at number 2, How to Train Your Dragon. Before I get to number 1, I'm going to talk about a couple honorable mentions that came close. And I only have 3 movies. 3 movies, I'll put them honorable mentions. Came close to making my top 10. One was Lilo and Stitch, another good live action remake. In fact, I would say the best Disney live action remake I've seen. Stitch is such a great character. Fantastic Four, the first few steps, I thought was another good Marvel movie. Marvel had 2 good movies. Thunderbolts I didn't like, but the other 2 they did a good job. I'll commend them on that. Yeah, overall the best Fantastic Four movie we've had so far. And then the third one is Megan 2.0. I feel like I'm one of the few people that like that movie. A lot of people actually really hate that movie, and it got bad scores. I don't think it did well in the box office. Got bad ratings, all that. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this movie. Again, it combined action and comedy. I think that worked really well for me. So, Bang 2.0 on my honorable mention. Now we'll get to my number 1. My number 1 movie is going to be a surprise because it's a movie that nobody's talking about. And it's a movie that totally took me by surprise. I was not expecting to like care about this movie. I wasn't sure if I was even going to watch it, but it was on HBO Max, so I was like, I'll give it a try. It's an A24 movie, and boy, it impacted me more than any movie this year, emotionally, I think, and story-wise. It was just magnificent, and that is The Materialist. Yeah, my favorite movie of the year, The Materialist, which if you don't know this movie, it's a second movie directed and written by Celine Song. Celine Song made a movie a couple years ago called Past Lives. And if you don't know, Past Lives made it into my top 10 movies of that year. And this is her only second movie, and it's number 1 on my list. So she's made 2 movies. They both made my top 10. So I am all on board the Celine Song train. I think she's one of the best screenwriters I've seen in a long time. I love the way she writes dialogue in both movies. And I didn't know she wrote this movie or directed it until I was watching it. And I was watching it going, man, this dialogue is so good. I'm like actually really into this movie, and it's all dialogue scenes. And usually I get really bored if it's 2 people are just in a room just talking. I get bored real easily, and I'm like, okay, let's go somewhere else. Let's do something. Let's move it. And both Past Lives and this have a lot of similarities, and it's the only 2 movies that I can think of that I actually love the dialogue, that I just love listening to what these people are saying and going, wow, they're really, you know, it's really fascinating what they're saying, and it's so true to real life, and it's like hitting me at the core of my life. I don't know. It just really spoke to me, the dialogue in these scenes, so much that's why I'm giving it number 1. Such a well written movie. It's kind of like the first movie. There's kind of almost this love triangle kind of storyline. We have Dakota Johnson in the main lead. We have Chris Evans here, and Pedro Pascal plays the other actor in the movie. I had to think about it for a little bit. But yeah, those are the three main actors. There's kind of this love triangle between the two and Dakota Johnson, but it's not like a normal like love triangle. Like they're not. There's not one that's like a jerk. They're actually both actually pretty good people, and there's really no fighting between the two. It's just she has to choose between which one she loves more, I guess, kind of thing. And it's interesting how she gets to that. But materialist, what I love about this movie so much, what's so interesting, I mean, the whole movie is Dakota Johnson plays this. She works for a company where she matches couples. She has clients, and she tries to she interviews them, gathers information, and then she says, okay, I have somebody like on my client list who I think will match up with you, and here's what I think you can match up with. And they kind of decide, oh yeah, maybe yes or no, whatever. And so, but she's very good at it. A lot of matches work out and they get married, and that's how they know they're successful. It's like, oh, they got married, so we matched them up well, and all that, and that's what they're trying to do. It's a little strange that they're more face-to-face matches. And of course, in today's age, all the matching is on computers. It's websites that you go to that match you up. So it's interesting that this one she's an actual matchmaker, like a human being that you have to talk to face-to-face. But it works for this movie because that's kind of the core of the movie. It's all about, and this is what I love about her writing, is about what is it to how do you match up with somebody, and how do you fall in love. And it's all about like people that are yearning to fall in love very badly. And that's a big part, I think, of society today, is we all want to find somebody and fall in love and have a happy ending. To talk about myself a little bit, I got married 9 years ago, and then last April my wife left me. She didn't want to live with me anymore. She didn't love me anymore. She was gone, and it was very heartbreaking. Of course, horrible thing that happened and devastated me this last year, and it really made me think a lot about like what is to what is it to get married, what is it to be in love, what is it, made me think about women differently, like what happened, and all this. And I don't know, this movie, like I said, it really spoke to me emotionally. Like because the way she matches people up, you gather information, and it's almost like a mathematical thing. It's more like, and I never thought about it, but that's kind of relationships is when you're trying to find somebody, it's almost like a math equation, that you think in your head, like they have to be, this, weigh this much. They have to be this tall. They have to earn this kind of money. They have to be this old. It's all numbers. It's crunching numbers, which isn't very romantic, but that's kind of the way matching is you're crunching the numbers. Do they fit this profile? What I think my perfect match should be, and that's why it's hard to find somebody to fit the match that you want, fit the numbers that you're looking for. And that's what's so heartbreaking about love today, and trying to find someone and fall in love and match up with somebody, is that it's so hard to find somebody that fits all that and what you think it should be and all this. And I don't know, it just made me think a lot about like my own relationships, and go, is that what happened in my marriage? Like, did she just look at me and mathematically just go, yeah, he doesn't fit what I want, or something? Because I feel like before I got married, I feel like, I think about myself, I think, well, I'm a nice guy. I think I'm very kind to people. I'm very loyal. I'm very religious. I think I have a good sense of humor. I say those are things I feel like I thought before that those were like things that made me attracted to maybe females, or why I always thought, growing up, like, oh, surely I'll find somebody who'll love me, somebody who'll get married with me and be happy with me, because I think I do have these positive attributes. I'm a hard worker, and all this. And so you think surely that will matter, but then you find out it doesn't really matter to women. I think mostly women just look at how tall you are, how much money you make, maybe how old you are. Those seems to be the main things. It's like you have to fit those categories or it's a no-go. And I didn't think about that until I got married. And then I realized, oh no, women look at you as like a number, not as all these other, attributes that you think are good. It just matters, these things, they want you to be 6'2", and it's like, I'm not 6'2", I'm 5'11". They want you to make this amount of money. I don't make that much money. They want you, to be in your 20s maybe or something. I don't know. I'm in my 40s. So I feel like I don't match up with women very well because I just don't fit the parameters that women have for what they were looking for the perfect man. And I'm not the perfect man, And so it's very kind of sad when you think about it. It's kind of a cynical way you look at it, but it's somewhat true. It's like, it's very sad to think, gosh, I'm never going to find anybody who will ever love me because I don't fit those numbers. It's a mathematical equation that I don't, equal to. And it's very kind of scary out there now that I'm, I'm married, but I'm, separated, and I'm, now out in the world, thinking, am I ever going to fall in love again, and all this stuff. Sorry, I'm talking about myself just to say this movie really reached me because that's kind of what the movie was about. Like, all these people are matching up, but yet people aren't happy. They're not, can you find love by just the mathematical equations match up? Or is there something more to it, and you have to wonder. And because there's a scene, again, I'll talk about some scenes here, but there's a scene where she's talking to Pedro Pascal and she says, you should be dating a younger woman than me. She says, and she says this to him, she said, because she's a matchmaker, she says, based on your height, how much money you make, because he's very rich. The whole thing is Pedro Pascal is very rich, and he's a handsome guy and all this. And she says, based on how tall you are, how old you are, how much money you make, how good looking you are, you should be dating women 10 years younger than me. And so she goes in the reasoning why. And it's funny, she's trying to talk him out of dating her because he says, mathematically, you should be able to date younger women than me that, that fit, better profile. But he says, no, I really like you. And he wants to date her. And so they date for a while in the movie anyways. Then Chris Evans is kind of he's a very good looking guy, of course, Chris Evans, but he's this working actor who doesn't make a lot of money. And they used to date before and all this stuff anyways. So you're kind of wondering, is she going to go for the rich guy, Pedro Pascal, who's a nice guy, nothing wrong? Or is she going to go with, Chris Evans, who she connects maybe more with and knows better and all this, but doesn't make a lot of money. And so it's all about that kind of thing. And also you get a lot of great conversations with other people, her clients. And like there's one woman that's kind of comes in and out of the movie that she talks to, and she says, I want to find someone to love me. And it has this whole thing. It's kind of heartbreaking when you hear it and you think, yeah, that's me. Like, I'd like to find somebody who would love me for me and, wants to come home and wants to be around me, and always will love me, and all this stuff. And she kind of goes into this whole thing. And I go, yeah. And I guess that's why it's number one for me, because I hit me emotionally, because I'm like, I'm that person. Like, I want to, I want to be loved too, and all that. And I want to, have the happy ending, whatever. So another scene that really gets me is her and Chris Evans. They kind of crash this wedding, and people are getting married, and they talk about, they're doing their vows. And she kind of goes into, yeah, they'll love each other for a little bit. And she goes through their whole marriage in her mind of like what happens in marriages. And since I went through a failed marriage, I kind of like relate. I'm like, yeah, that is kind of what happens in marriages. Like, you love each other at first and all this, and then you get tired of each other maybe, and then you stop having sex, and then you just become roommates, and that's what happened to me. And then you start, being bitter towards each other, and I think that's what happened to me. And then you hate each other, and then you get divorced, and then you fight over all the stuff you own, and all that. And she goes through this whole what will probably happen, because most marriages do end up in divorce. And it's just a very interesting, very, very well written scene where I'm like, yeah, she's totally right. Like, that is how most marriages end, really unhappy. And then he says, why do people get married? She says, because they're lonely and they have hope. What a great line. It's so true. It's like, yeah, we know marriages don't work out, yet we still get married. We still fall in love, even though love doesn't work out. Because we're lonely people, and for some reason, we do love having this hope of finding love. It's a great hope to have. And so we continue to go through these cycles that, destroy us, because it's like, I just want to be in love, and I want to be loved, and all this. Such a great thing. And so we keep going through it, because there's a risk to it, but we feel that the risk is worth it, because what if we find true love, and then everything will solve itself? Anyways, so yeah, there's some great just scenes like that. I thought, man, that's such a well-written scene that really relates to me in my life. And so, again, if this doesn't relate to you in your life, if you married your high school sweetheart, you've been married for 50 years, this doesn't relate to you. You don't understand this. But if you're me, you went through a failed marriage, I don't know. It just speaks to you. You're like, yeah, this is exactly how the dating world is and how hard it is and all this anyway. So I know I'm going a long ways, but I'm just kind of explaining why this is my number one movie of the year. But saying all that, it has a really good happy ending to it that is really nice and sweet and just gives you actually, because it's very cynical. The movie's very cynical towards love and finding love. And then at the very end, she actually, I don't want to spoil too much, but she does fall in love, and they actually do have, the end, it kind of ends on a positive note that will be happy. And I think the whole idea behind the movie is that, love isn't a mathematical equation that you just fit in numbers and go, okay, they fit all my criteria, therefore we should be in love. But there's something that you can't, love is, you can't, there's no equation to it. It's just something that happens. It's a feeling. It's just, you can't explain it. It's almost, love is almost unexplainable. You feel it. You feel like you feel love for that person. And you can't, why? I don't know. I just love being around that person. I'm attracted to them, all this, and I just have a great time with them, and I just want to be with them all the time. There's just something about somebody that you just fall in love with them, and you can't, put it you can't crunch the numbers. You can't put it in an equation of why it should work, but it works. And I think that's kind of a good overall ending to the movie that kind of gives you some positive feelings of hope of like, maybe I'll fall in love again in life. Maybe they won't fit all my criteria, and maybe it just works out, who knows? So I did love that. And I don't know, and I put this number one because at the end of the movie, I don't know, I just felt very happy because that ending was so good. And it was just an emotional movie for me that I really thought about it. Again, I'm talking so much because I thought a lot about this movie after I saw it. And that's why I was like, is this my favorite movie of the year? Like, it can't be, can it? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, yeah, this is my favorite movie of the year. It impacted me more than any other movie and made me think a lot about life more than any other movie this year. So if it does that for me, it's my favorite movie of the year. And so, yeah, Materialists here, number one. I really recommend anybody that seems skeptical about watching this movie. I say give it a try. It might not be for everybody, but maybe it is. If you're like me, maybe it'll speak to you and give you, an emotional, give you emotional impact movie that, makes you, feel good at the end. Anyway, so that's my number one. And that's my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Please feel free to comment about any of these 10 movies and what you thought about them and your favorite movie of the year, all that. So besides that, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to liking it. Thank you to all my subscribers for supporting the channel. I appreciate y'all and I hope you have a good day.